Who knew healing magic could be so much fun? In this world, it's not just about saving lives. It's about doing it in the most unconventional, uproarious way possible.
Dramatic turn when he bumps into two of his classmates after school on a rainy day. The next thing they know, they are transported to a magical world through a mysterious and powerful spell. But there's a small problem. Yuzeto was swept up in the vortex by accident. On top of that, he discovers that he possesses a rare talent for healing magic, an ability that is highly sought after in this new realm. In order to survive, Yuzeto must join forces with the rescue team, a group of tough and ruthless thugs, and endure their grueling training. Follow Yuzeto as he learns the wrong way to use his healing powers in this odd and humorous otherworld fantasy filled with excitement and action. The story begins with an average high school kid named Yuzeto frowning over the student council couple Ryerson Kazuki and Inukami Suzune while waiting for the rain to stop before going back to his home. Eventually, they explain that they aren't dating on their way back home as they shared their spare umbrella with Yuzeto. Suddenly, they get summoned into another world as heroes by the king of the kingdom of Lingle to defeat the Demon King. It gets found that Yuzeto was just dragged along with Ryerson and Inukami since he didn't hear a bell ringing in his head. When the court assigns Mage Welsi to measure everyone's aptitude, they find out that Yuzeto has the potential to use healing magic, which is considered the rarest in the world they were in. But unfortunately, just the moment they think of protecting Yuzeto from Rose, the leader of the Kingdom Rescue Squad barges into the hallway of the king, and Ryerson makes a mistake by telling the truth in front of her. Nobody in the kingdom trusted the method of Rose when it came to her training method, but she is the one who led her squad to save the lives of many soldiers when the demons attacked. When Yuzeto reached the Kingdom Rescue Squad, it was full of bandits like men who respected Rose as their big sister, and everyone introduced themselves to Yuzeto. Yuzeto gets a room with Tong, who seems rather distressed regarding healing magic. Yuzeto was still determining what would happen to him the next day as they would start training for him very soon. When Ryerson and Inukami are having their morning discussion discussing their future endeavors, Princess Syria comes up asking them about Yuzeto, and even she is distressed after knowing that he was called in by the Kingdom Rescue Squad, worrying about their training process. In the afternoon, Ryerson and Inukami end up barging into the Kingdom Rescue Squad without even informing everyone, and find out the diary that had carried the thoughts of Yuzeto as he kept on going through his days in the training. Suddenly, they get called by Sigris as Yuzeto, and Rose come back from their outdoor training to train across the hedge. The uncanny sight of Yuzeto's training shocking everyone since Rose kept increasing the heavy weight on his back as time progressed. The princess also came to meet Yuzeto. Ryerson and Inukami were inspired after seeing Yuzeto doing great in the unknown place when all they did was worry about him as the day continued. The hellish training of Rose increased the physical abilities of Yuzeto, and according to her, his sole goal was to treat the injured who had been left on the battlefield. The sudden travel with Rose went through a market as he continued carrying a heavy backpack as they finally reached the city's outer walls. It seems that they are about to go to the outside area in the forest where the monsters dwell regularly, and they set up a camp while Rose instructs him to hunt a grand grizzly. Even though Yuzeto refused to accept his quest initially, he had to comply because he couldn't return to the kingdom without ending his quest. Suddenly, a white bear starts chasing him down as he continues to run off. But the moment he gathers his strength to fight back against the grizzly, the number increases in the pack and becomes a total of 3 them instead of 1. finally, when he jumped into the water to escape their grasp, the backpack became heavy and started pulling him down, so he fought back the momentum to jump back onto the land. Yuzeto heals an injured rabbit in the forest, which helps him detect danger from a distance as the grizzly bears are still looking for him everywhere. When he finally opened up his backpack, he discovered it was full of portable food and equipment to camp outside in the forest. Soon he and the rabbit reached the nest of grizzlies to defeat the alpha bear, but the sight of it playing with its cub makes him soft. When he witnesses a massive snake in the forest, he knows that he has to get out of the forest really soon. But it soon gets worse as he notices the dead bear carcasses inside the forest, which was definitely done by the snake. Yuzeta's motive inside the forest quickly changes as he notices the bear cubs crying for their dead parents in front of his eyes and sets his target on the huge snake. Meanwhile, the Demon King was concerned about their winning rate being manipulated in the battle against the humans because of Rose and her army, as they kept on healing the injured and sending them back out again. Even the demon commander Amira feared battling against Rose for her unbelievable bravery as she fought to the death against her mentor and only lost an eye in the fight as she returned alive. But this time, Amira makes a promise to battle against Rose on her own to win the fight if the time comes. On the other hand, Yuzeto ends up running into the vicious snake once again in the forest, and to save the bear cubs from its grasp, he gets wounded in the process. But when that isn't fearful enough, he also gets affected by the poison. In the end, also the bear cub joins the fight to help Yuzeto, and they avenge the death of the grizzly bears together. But the situation quickly changes as the snake gets up once again, but Rose arrives on the scene with the help of the rabbit from before. Also, the rabbit is a pet of Rose whom she sent to keep looking out for him, and the snake was the monster Sigrus failed to kill during the previous Demon Lord's invasion. They finally end the journey outside the forest by taking the bear cub with them on their way inside the kingdom. Yuzeto woke up in his room in front of Tong, and he headed out to the bear cub they rescued yesterday to feed him an apple while naming him Bluey. Suddenly, Rose comes up to him, claiming he passed to stand on the same battlefield as her by cornering the monster snake in the forest even though his target was stolen. Also, she claimed that she was proud of him for having distinct characteristics from the usual healers, physical abilities, and a strong-willed spirit that the other two renowned healers in the kingdom couldn't achieve in their lifetime. Not only that, but also, Rose claimed that she would be on the front line with her to heal the injured soldiers since the demon army is quickly approaching as time passes. Knowing that the heroes will be there fighting for their lives against the demon army, Yuzeto doesn't want to be the only one doing nothing and keep sitting on his ass. So his sole mission from now on with the Kingdom Rescue Squad is to bring the person who is about to be killed, even if they have to steal them away to save their life. Yuzeto finally feels like he has become a true member of the rescue squad, and the next step of his training begins from that instant. When his first training with the bear above on his back ends in the afternoon, Rose gives him the next task, claiming that he will have to run around the city to do the same thing while she goes meeting the king in his castle to answer to his summoning. The king was concerned about the report made by the escorts who tagged with Kazuka during his training, as there were fewer monsters than usual in the plains. Rose was also bothered by the report, so she wanted to scout near the borders right across the river to guarantee the area's safety before the training began. However, she didn't want to forget those guys who died battling against the Demon King and blamed only her arrogance for their deaths. The only way for her to forget her scene is to create subordinates that won't die, and she has finally found the embodiment of her ideal, Yuzeto. The next day, when Yuzeto was running around the town carrying Bluey on his head, people were looking right at him with their usual glances like they were expecting him. Then, some guy behind him suddenly starts calling him while running, but he collapses on the ground, losing unconsciousness. When Yuzeto finishes healing him, he introduces himself as Olga Fleur of the Kingdom Rescue Squad and claims that even though he is a healer himself, his healing magic only works on others, not on himself that much. His sister, Oruru, is also a healer, just like him, and suddenly, a concerned mother enters the scene with her wounded child while someone is looking at Yuzeto from the dark corner. Yuzeto helps the mother carry her child to the clinic, where he meets Olga's sister Oruru as they begin the treatment. The amazing healing magic of Olga was quite different from Yuzeta's one, who transferred the mana into the patient's body to heal from the inside. Before Yuteso takes his leave from the place, Olga expresses that he shouldn't end up hating Rose for being herself and gets surprised by seeing the optimism of Yuzeto. He felt like Rose had finally met the one she always needed to meet. She would not be alone on the battlefield the next time she stepped. When Yuzeto is about to begin his run again, a half-beast girl comes up to him and lends him her vision of the future, claiming that the future can be chosen by him. But, unfortunately, in the vision, he sees all the soldiers of Lingle dead under the feet of the Demon King, and the girl claims that he must return the vision, calling it a favor. After listening to her, Yuzeto feels like it was precognition and runs like hell, forgetting about his training and Bluey. Meanwhile, Demon King's commander Amira is busy building a bridge along with her demon army when the second core soldier of the demon army comes around, nagging her around. They were just one step away from completion, and suddenly, the arrival of an unknown entity came down, crashing on their plan just like a cursed meteor. The bridge gets blown off by none other than Rose, who was there to keep an eye on the plans of the Demon King. She now believes that she will have to work and speed up faster if the demon soldiers are catching up in this speed. Yuzeto is still living in a real-life nightmare after seeing the vision from the little half-beast girl in the town as he gets awakened by Rose herself. She claims that Hero Kazuki has already finished his training and will have to tag along with Hero Suzune since the king requested him to be there personally. They considered it last-minute training in case they needed a healer, and Yuzeto was permitted to bring Bluey with him if he wanted to. Suzune was surprised to see Yuzeto after getting informed by the castle guard that some other person would be tagging along with her on the journey. Rose decides to warn Suzune about the uncertainties that could bring in the training and claims that she was allowed to be reckless to some extent. Healing magic is useful, but she shouldn't consider it omnipotent because it doesn't work on a dead person. Yuzeto was surprised to see Rose warning her because she had never done something like that for anyone. On their way, Suzune claims that Kazuki was able to pull through his training, but after being tired out by the whole training, he has been sleeping since the previous day. Yuzeto introduces his bear cub to Suzune, and just when she is about to pet him with her hands, she gets slapped away by the bear even though he is sleeping. Suddenly, they meet a bunch of bandits on their way to the vicinity of the plains, where the monster population is truly high. The bandits were amazed to see Yuzeto carrying around a blue grizzly cub like Bluey on his back, but since Bluey is a cub, they decided to run into Yuzeto and the others with their weapons. But they get intercepted by the lightning magic power of Suzune, and Yuzeto is ready in case one of the bandits dies from the magic's attack. Unfortunately, when they are busy beating up the bandits, a herd of foul boars runs into them, and one of them knocks out Yuzeto and Suzune both when he tries to save Suzune from the attack. She instantly gets unconscious, and just when he finishes using his healing power on her, they fall into a river with a waterfall. They somehow manage to drift to shore, and Yuzeto passes out while dragging her up, but wakes up instantly while she is making a speech. They didn't know how far they were from where they went missing, but they had to make a camp anyways to live in the dark for the night. At night, when they finish eating after making a fire and catching fish, Suzune expresses that she has no intention or wish to return to the previous world as she finally has the chance to release herself. Yuzeto has the same thought as her since he was able to change his life in the new world. Suzune truly wanted to protect the country so that it could one day become where she truly belongs. The conversation led Suzune to express her thoughts about having a closer relationship with Yuzeto, which makes him go to sleep after being embarrassed. The next morning when they start their journey, they meet venom monkeys, and one of them ends up biting her hand, thinking that it will be safe, which later gets healed by Yuzeto instantly. Suddenly, they see Bluey and the castle guard running into them as Suzune makes Yuzeto feel like she is in a different dimension than she existed. Yuzeto and Suzune reached the king safely after their disaster, and the king apologized to everyone for rushing their training, but he had other ways to face their incoming problem. Rose added the information of the Demon Lord's army building their bridges at the edge of their borders to cross over the river, and also informed them of the destruction of it, which might help them to prepare for a few days more. Kazuki came running to Yuzeto and Suzune since he worried about their safety and explained that Suzune trusts Yuzeto with her life, knowing he wouldn't let her die that easily. When Yuzeto comes into Rose's room after freshening up, Rose informs him that they will not head out in the early stages of the battle as Tong and the others will cover for them, knowing that he will be an easy target for the demon army. He gets officially given the Kingdom Rescue Squad uniform, which is waterproof and dirt-proof, as he looks worthy of it after wearing it. But the air in the room gets heavy as soon as Rose states that he should value his life more than anything, so he shouldn't be sacrificing his own life over anything. When Yuzeto is about to sleep at night, Kazuka calls him from outside and informs him that the battle with the Demon Lord's army has already started. He claims that he has run away from the castle as he is afraid of fighting, knowing that the demon army will also intend to finish him off. Yuzeto stated that even though he fights as a hero beside him on the battlefield or not, they will still remain friends, and that is a fact. The strong will of Yuzeto makes Kazuki change his mind about leaving the battlefield, and even though he doesn't know if he will be enough as a hero, he wants to help his friend Yuzeto and Suzune. They promise to save the country and its people from the grasp of the demon army as Kazuki prepares to leave for the castle to join as a hero once again. But, on the other hand, Suzune looks at them from afar and gets noticed by Yuzeto. Yuzeto states that he doesn't want him and Suzune to fight for their lives against the demon army, knowing they shouldn't risk their lives. However, he wanted her to know that he would respect their wishes to leave the battlefield if they wanted to. The next day, the news of the demon army lord's attack spreads throughout the kingdom by order of the king. They aim to intercept the army, with Kazuki and Suzune taking the vanguard under Commander Sigris. Rose makes a speech in the hallroom of the Kingdom Rescue Squad for his men and orders Oruru and Yuzeto that they shouldn't get careless since it will be their first war. The bridge between the demon army's own and the kingdom came close to finally finishing, and the fierce armored general of the Demon King was desperate to fight. Even though Mirar was well known about the Kingdom Rescue Squad, the army general felt they won't be a match for him, considering that they were humans. When Mirar considers the men of Rose as monsters, the general gets fired up, thinking that he will finally enjoy the battle because they will satisfy him on the battlefield with their skills. The time for the battle finally came, and Yuzeto asked for Rose's advice about the Demon Lord's army since it was her second time fighting it. Even though the demons looked like humans with horns and tan skin, they possessed a superhuman level of physical strength and dark magic. Rose decides to boost his self-confidence by praising his strength as he takes his time to train to face the calamity in front of them. Suzune and Kazuki show up to meet him before they go forward to the front line of the king's army under the guidance of the elite army. Suzune claims that she has found her real self after entering the new world, as she is not an honor student anymore and is not at a loss from her previous life. The change she achieved after going missing with Yuzeto is noticeable in the eyes of Kazuki, and she claims that she has a reason to make it back. The elite army captain makes the magic squadron go to the front line for the sake of their kingdom of Lingle as the demonic army presents itself on the battlefield. Kazuki and Suzune realize that fighting with the opposition is their only option, and Suzune takes the lead, flashing her lightning magic and crashing down on the opposition. Yuzeto and everyone from the Kingdom Rescue Squad could hear the battle begin as they were in charge of covering the injured, but their turn to escape was available in front of them if things started to look too bad, according to Rose. So Rose orders her men, including Tong, to go forward as she and Yuzeto will head out to the front lines once the time passes. Yuzeto was vastly worried about his friends, and Tong's men kept on bringing in wounded soldiers to be cared for by Yuzeto. The wounded soldier of the king's army talks about a huge black monster, and the description made by the woman gets noted in Yuzeto's head. The black armored monster in the demon army squad keeps executing the soldiers like they are nothing but ants in front of him. He continues to look for a bigger challenge, getting no excitement, thinking there is no need for him on the battlefield. Just the moment a wounded soldier in the king's army starts moving around talking on his own in fear, it gets noticed by the monstrous Black Knight. The instant he is about to finish him off, the wounded soldier goes missing, making him realize that Mirar was right when she talked about the troublesome beings called kidnappers in the human army. On the other hand, the wounded soldier gets saved by Tung's companion as he carries him inside the tent of the Kingdom Rescue Squad. Finally, Rose realizes it is her and Yuzeta's time to get back on track in the front line as she leaves the tent in the care of Olga and Oruru while heading out with Yuzeto. On their way, Rose explains that she will teach him a lesson on how to overcome the war since he doesn't know how to do something like take a life. Yuzeto thinks of the information regarding an entity of an enemy clad in black armor that uses some troublesome magic as they head on. He promises that he will not let anyone die as long as they are within his reach, while Suzune and Kazuki face the monstrous armored being discussed by everyone on the battlefield. The moment the human army goes head-on with the armored being slashing their swords inside him, the magic released by him gets released like spears toward the human army. Also, the reversal of dark magic coming out of the entity makes the soldiers bleed, who attack him abruptly as they fall to the ground. Kazuki and Suzune keep standing flabbergasted, witnessing the overpowered entity before them, not realizing what they should do at first. Meanwhile, Yuzato uses her flexible movements against the demon army as they can't land any of their targets on her while he escapes with wounded soldiers. The sight of him floating in the air with 2 armored soldiers impresses them all, as they couldn't do anything even after ganging up on him at once. The scene of dead soldiers in front of him reminds him of the vision given by the little half-beast girl, which pains him continuously. He worries about his friends as some demon soldier runs into him, trying to slash him with his sword, but he gets saved by a soldier. The soldier then informs him about the front-line situation with the armored monster as Yuzato starts running to reach their location. Suzune and Kazuka take on the armored monster while leaving the others to the normal soldiers. Unfortunately, when Kazuki uses his magic on the monster, the dark reversal magic also works on him, which takes him down while leaving no wound or anything on his armor, hitting straight inside his internals. Suzune notices that the other soldiers face the same thing, and the place of the body they hit on the monster ends up hitting them in the end, reflecting their own attack on them. The realization of Suzune amazes the armored monster, and even after realizing the situation, Suzune hits the monster with her lightning magic while keeping it minimal. After sealing the monster's vision, Kazuki and Suzune attack him outside his field of visual, thinking that it will work, but it surely doesn't since the attack was reflected on them. But not the attack that Suzune did on his back. And while Kazuki was buying time distracting the monster, Suzune made a surprise attack, slashing his insides with her sword surprisingly. Unfortunately, the moment she thought the attack would not get reflected, she fell down, bleeding on the ground pretty quickly, while Kazuka faced the same fate in the hands of it. The black armored monster explains that the armor that he is wearing is made out of mana, which acts on his real body like a barrier. So there was no point in attacking surprisingly from the beginning. So instead, he stood there thinking that it had always been like this, untouchable from everyone, including the demons or humans, even his own parents. Just the moment the Black Knight is about to finish off wounded Suzune, Yuzato enters the scene yelling as he makes an overpowered punch on the Black Knight with all the force and mana built into his fist. The entry of Yuzato felt like a hurricane to the Dark Knight as he was desperate to save his friends while Kazuki was lying on the ground wounded along with injured Suzune. However, he quickly starts healing all of them, pulling Suzune out from the brink of death and healing the hole in his body made by the enemy's sword. The Dark Knight throws the sword in Yuzata's way when he is busy healing his friend and moves at the right moment. The break in the armor of the Dark Knight was quite visible, and the person inside was actually a woman. On the other hand, Suzune couldn't help but wonder how the punch made by Yuzato broke the armor, since the demon armor is made up of magic and a powerful spell providing protection reflecting the attacker's hit on the attacker. Even though Yuzato didn't want to fight, the situation made his move in a certain direction, with only one option in his hands. The coating of healing magic gave him the boost to move forward as each hit continued to break the armor and make it flabby. The spear coming out of Dark Knight's armor goes through the hands of Yuzato in one slice, but it somehow gets melted and transformed into slime as the magic didn't work out. Suzune couldn't help but wonder what was happening, since the Dark Knight couldn't reflect any attack and was breaking on its own with force made by Yuzata's strikes. Finally, the Dark Knight gets out the sword made out of mana, but Yuzata's confidence breaks through the demon guard as the woman in the armor falls down on the ground. He notices that it is just a girl inside the armor of Dark Knight as the demon army soldiers continue to wonder what just happened, as they didn't expect to see the end like that. However, his healing magic was on a whole different level, and he continued to heal everyone injured on the battlefield while chatting with Suzune. Kazukiri gains consciousness, and he can't help but wonder how his friend Yuzeto has defeated the infamous Dark Knight, and his wounds are fully healed. He notices the ongoing battle and wants to join the Omi's front line.
Get ready for round 2 of hilarity and hijinks. Usato is back with even more unconventional healing magic antics in part 2.
However, they must also imprison the woman who got out of the armor, as the commander will decide her fate. Rose soon enters the scene as she approaches Yuzeto and takes him back to the camp, since the battle has calmed down a fair bit, as they will deploy more soldiers soon. The news of Dark Knight losing gets spread into the demon camp, and Amira is shocked after hearing that. Also, it wasn't Rose who defeated her, and some boy wearing the same uniform as her. She orders Uglurk to call Balzinus back after deciding to retreat with the army, realizing that Sigris is still alive and well, while they don't have a healing magician. They notice the heroes coming face to face, prepared with their weapons and magic to face their battalion head-on. Meanwhile, Yuzeto gets busy healing the injured soldiers on the battlefield that got carried into their camp. Rose was quite proud of him for fulfilling his duties of saving the heroes from the demon army, and the appreciation coming out of her mouth made him cry with happiness. He finally lost his conscience on Rose's shoulder when the tiredness hit him, as he was worn out from the battle. Yuzeto woke up after 3 straight days, but the end result of the battle was quite great, as everyone in the rescue squad came safe from the battle. Moreover, the celebration and happiness after the temporary victory against the demon army spread throughout the country, proving the value of the rescue squad. In addition, Yuzeto gets a Medal of Honor to prove his involvement in the battle, saving many knights' lives. He was shaken by the suspense when the event went down, and he soon gets called by the king again. On the way, he gets greeted by the commanders bowing down in front of him for his help in the battle, saving countless people's lives. But Yuzeto claimed they were still living because of each other in humbleness, which amazed the commanders. Yuzeto was called in because of the demon woman who was captured by the knights when he defeated her, and revealed that she gave in quite easily. Not only that, but also, she has given up a lot of valuable information to them, which might help them in their next move for not being loyal to the demon army. Her only condition for future help was to meet with Yuzeto, and she was extremely persistent in making her point. Yuzeto wonders what she will tell him, since he was the person who took her down, and the Knights of the King needed the information on the Demon King's army leader's magic type, so they didn't have any way other than complying with her. Yuzeto couldn't help but agree with their proposition, thinking there was no other way of solving the problem, and Suzune came along. He thought that the armor on her had broken up permanently, but he became concerned after realizing that the armor added up on its own after she gained consciousness. After reaching the prison of the Dark Knight, Yuzeto wanted to heal her properly, guessing that her internals might be damaged from the attack. She couldn't help but wonder how the humans were using the healing magic against them, as they are only able to use healing magic. She realized it was her fault to underestimate Yuzeto for his abilities. All her pain was resolving inside her as if it had never existed in the first place, and the magic out of Yuzeto felt so warm on her. She got out of the armor, requesting him to keep his hand on her face as she didn't want to let go of the warmth. All she learned was the kindness coming out of Yuzato as she cried in pleasure. But on the other hand, Yuzato is still clueless about why the half-beast girl in the market showed him the vision even when the battle ended peacefully. On the way, he suddenly notices the girl and runs up to her. The little girl was surprised to see him alive and added that she wanted to collect the payment she needed for her mother. When she was about to explain what she was about to say, Suzune couldn't understand what was going on and got even more puzzled after listening to Yuzato about the vision she helped get through him. The girl introduced herself as a Mako, a fox of the beast folk, and she was curious to meet him after his healing magic. She claimed that she needed to show him the vision that he had seen to make him realize that the country was in great trouble. She wanted to make him understand that the country would be hopelessly getting destroyed without him. Suzune agreed with her as even she and Kazuki were saved by himself alone, and she was the only reason they got saved. The girl has the magic to foresee the future, and since the beast folk is looked down upon as a race by the others, she can't easily share her opinion with anyone. However, the country's no discrimination rule made her so impressed that she was looking for a way to save the country with the help of someone. A Mako reveals that her mother is sick in a weird way, as she keeps sleeping and doesn't wake up. Only a certain healing magic can wake her up, but she couldn't find anyone to do so, as she was discriminated against. Also, Rose was the person who was against her companions helping her since she could never trust her words, and Yuzato was the only person who looked like he would. The foreseeable vision revealed that he would save the country and even help her mother. As a Mako was the reason he could save the country and his friends simultaneously, he promised to help her. Yuzato leaves Suzune and a Mako while he gets out to get permission from the king, as Suzune focuses on her because of her cuteness. A Mako explains the situation to her more deeply as she is helpless if her mother doesn't wake up, and adds that she can foresee the future in half a year or a whole year. The foreseeing ability is unique to her bloodline, as she can do something like this and only her mother. When Yuzato reached Rose with the information, she felt quite problematic since mixing up with the beast folk could go sideways for them. The worst case scenario the country will face is going on a war against the beast folk, which they can't risk anyway. Rose made sure that she couldn't allow this to happen without the permission of the king, and he had to get some training to face any incoming danger to be fit for it. Meanwhile, Suzune was busily foreseeing the future to see what would happen soon, as they would have to wait for the discussion with the king. Mako was finally at peace as Yuzato was trying her best to help her escape the situation, and he was also glad that she was the only reason the humans were saved. Everyone in the town is glad that Yuzato has saved them, as they keep coming at him appreciating his existence as he gets outside with Suzune. The training with Rose begins again, but this time it isn't about healing magic anymore, and he will soon be able to heal more complicated conditions. This time they were about to train combat with each other, which would be their next step since the wounds affected by a curse will never be healed once he faces more impressive demons in the future. Learning how to dodge is necessary for him to complete, and he should take his pieces of training more seriously to face the enemy. He couldn't help but wonder how to dodge the attacks while getting punched by Rose to get him more used to it. When he wakes up from his unconscious state, Rose makes him go on for another round again as he keeps looking at her hopelessly, knowing that she will make him go through it no matter what happens. Finally, Yuzato gets up as his training in hell again begins for the betterment of the humans.